On Thanksgiving Day, my brother-in-law coldly said, "We're celebrating at my parents' house. Don't come." I didn't argue. I just went to an old friend's house where I was greeted with warmth, laughter, and luxury they couldn't even imagine. When I posted the photo, my phone exploded with calls, because my friend is not just a friend, but someone who will expose their greed forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The groceries covered my kitchen counter like evidence of optimism. Cranberries, fresh herbs, the expensive butter my wife used to insist on for her famous rolls. I'd been cooking since yesterday morning, following recipes I'd watched her perfect over 30 years of marriage. Beulah didn't knock. She had a key, though she rarely used it. The lock clicked. The door swung open, and there she stood in her designer coat, the one I'd helped pay for last spring when she mentioned needing professional attire for her manager position. "Dad, you're here. Good." I wiped my hands on a towel, moving toward her for a hug. She sidestepped it, walking straight to the kitchen. Her eyes swept across the preparation without comment. "Of course I'm here. I've been cooking since yesterday. You're coming Thursday, right? With Leroy and the kids?" She set her purse on the counter, not meeting my gaze. "About that. We need to talk. Actually, first, I need a favor." The familiar tightness started in my chest. I recognized this tone, this posture. "The car broke down. The mechanic says it's $800 for the repair. We don't have it right now, and Leroy's commission check doesn't come until next week." "800? What's wrong with the car?" "Something with the transmission. I don't understand all the technical stuff. Can you help?" My hand reached for my wallet before my brain caught up. Muscle memory from 3 years of this dance. "Of course. Family helps family." I counted out $800 bills. Her shoulders relaxed as I pressed them into her palm. She folded them quickly, tucked them into her purse with practiced efficiency. "Thanks, Dad. I really appreciate it." She was gone within 15 minutes. No mention of Thursday, no comment on the food I'd prepared, no hug goodbye. The next evening, I was setting the dining table when my phone rang. I'd extended the table to seat 6. Beulah, Leroy, their 2 kids, my neighbor's daughter who'd helped me with the shopping. I was placing the good silverware, the set my wife had inherited from her mother. "Merle, it's me. About Thursday." Leroy's voice carried that flat, administrative tone he used when delivering bad news to clients. I froze, fork suspended above a plate. "Yes, what time should I expect you?" "That's the thing. We're celebrating at my parents' house. Don't come. It'll be a small circle, just close family." The fork trembled slightly in my hand. I set it down with careful precision. "I see. My mother already cooked for her guest count. You understand." "I understand." The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see the cranberry sauce cooling on the counter. My wife's recipe, the one she'd taught Beulah when she was 12. I moved slowly, methodically, removed the extra plate settings one by one. Each piece of china returned to the cabinet was a small, deliberate act. Fork, knife, spoon, plate. My face remained expressionless in the darkening window's reflection. Later, I sat in my recliner, the leather worn smooth in places where my wife used to rest her head against my shoulder. The mantel across from me displayed family photos in chronological order. Beulah at graduation, Beulah's wedding, Beulah's kids at various ages. My late wife smiled from the center frame, frozen at 56, 3 years before the cancer took her. I pulled out my laptop, opened my banking app, started scrolling through transactions. The pattern emerged like a crime scene coming into focus under forensic light. March, 200, emergency medical bills. June, 2800, roof repair. September, 3500, Leroy's car accident deductible. November, 900, kids dental work. 3 years of this, $47,000. Every request preceded by renewed contact. Every payment followed by weeks of silence. Close family, just close family. I said it aloud to the empty room, and the bitterness in my voice surprised me. My laugh came out sharp, unfamiliar. 3 years, $47,000. Every time she calls, I think this time will be different. This time she wants to see her father, not his wallet. I pulled up my call log, 5 incoming calls from Beulah this year. I checked my text messages. 3 texts. All requests or logistics, never conversation. I stood, walked to the hallway where more photos lined the wall, studied each one with the careful attention I used to give fire inspection reports. In this one, Beulah's birthday 3 years ago, her smile was radiant. That was right after I'd paid her car down payment. This one from Christmas 2 years ago, taken the week after I'd covered their mortgage payment when Leroy's commission got delayed. In every photo where she looked genuinely happy, there was a recent transaction. In the casual snapshots, family dinners from years ago when my wife was alive, Beulah's expression was different, present, real. I returned to the recliner as midnight approached. The house was too quiet. The food I'd prepared would spoil before I could eat it all. The dining table stood bare in the next room, a monument to rejected hospitality. But something had shifted. The hurt was still there, raw and immediate. Yet underneath it, something harder was forming, something cold and calculating. I'd spent 30 years as a fire captain, analyzing situations, making tactical decisions under pressure. If they only valued money, they needed to understand what they were losing. Not through confrontation. That would only make me look bitter, desperate. No, they needed to see what my life could be without them. What I could do with $47,000 a year when I wasn't pouring it into a bottomless well of ingratitude. The plan wasn't fully formed yet, but as I sat in the darkness, staring at those photos, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. Thanksgiving morning found me in the same chair, still wearing yesterday's clothes. I hadn't slept. Dawn crept through the windows, illuminating the dining table in the next room. 6 place settings last night, 0 this morning. The math of abandonment. Coffee went cold in my hand. I'd made it at some point, couldn't remember when. The prepared food sat in the refrigerator, sealed in containers that would never be opened. My wife's cranberry sauce, the herb butter for rolls, all of it pointless now. My phone lay face down on the side table. I'd placed it that way deliberately. Didn't want to see the screen. Didn't want to confirm that Beulah wouldn't call, wouldn't text, wouldn't acknowledge the casual cruelty of yesterday's exclusion. At 9:47, the phone buzzed. I almost let it ring through to voicemail. Didn't recognize the number, but old instinct, 30 years of emergency calls, made me pick up on the 4th ring. Hello? My voice came out rough, unused. Merle Flores? This is Bob Winston. Fire Academy, class of '85. Tell me you remember your old study partner. I sat forward, brain struggling to shift gears. Bob Winston. Ladder drills and midnight study sessions and the practical exam he'd failed twice before I showed him the weight distribution trick. Bob? Winston? The guy who couldn't pass the ladder drill to save his life? His laugh boomed through the speaker, genuine and warm. The same. Until you taught me the trick. I owe you a few meals for that. That was 40 years ago. Some debts don't expire. Listen, I heard through Mike Thompson you might be on your own today. That true? I hesitated. Mike Thompson had retired the same year I did, moved to Beaverton. We'd grabbed coffee twice in 3 years. Not close, but the firefighter network stayed connected in quiet ways. Plans changed, then changed them again. I'm hosting at my place in Lake Oswego. 15 people, too much food, and I could use another voice from the old days. My wife's family stories are killing me. Come keep me sane. Lake Oswego, the wealthy suburb 20 minutes west, where tech executives and old money built estates overlooking the water. I'd driven through it exactly twice in my life. I wouldn't want to impose. Merle, you saved my career. You can impose anytime. Come, please. Something in his voice, not pity, not obligation, genuine desire for company. The contrast with yesterday's phone call was so sharp it nearly hurt. What time? 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. And Merle, it's good to hear your voice. After he hung up, I sat motionless for another minute. Then I stood. The act of rising from that chair felt significant, like choosing action over paralysis. The shower water ran hot against my shoulders. I stood straighter under the spray, felt muscles respond, shaved carefully, trimmed my beard with the precision I used to apply to inspection reports. In the mirror, I looked like myself again, not the hollowed-out version who'd spent the night in that chair. I chose a good shirt, dark blue, still crisp. Beulah had given it to me 2 Christmases ago, I realized as I buttoned it. The irony almost made me change. But no, I'd keep it on. Let it remind me of the pattern. Walking toward the door, I paused at the hallway photo wall. 23 pictures arranged chronologically. I examined each one systematically, the way I used to review incident reports for patterns. This one, Beulah's 33rd birthday, her smile bright, arms around me. That was the weekend after I'd covered her car down payment. $3,000. This one, Christmas 2 years ago. She's laughing, holding up a present. That was the week I'd paid their delayed mortgage. $2,800. This one, last summer's barbecue, one of the rare times they'd visited. Beulah looks happy. I checked my banking app. Yes, June 20th. Right after I'd transferred $1,900 for emergency dental work for the kids. My finger traced the timeline. Every genuine smile coincided with recent money. In the older photos from when my wife was alive, Beulah's expressions were different, present, engaged. Those were taken before she learned to see me as an ATM. I grabbed my keys, walked to my car, backed out of the driveway without looking toward the kitchen, toward all that wasted preparation. The drive to Lake Oswego took 30 minutes. I headed west on Highway 26, past the Sylvan exit where Beulah's neighborhood sprawled in cookie-cutter rows. Didn't even glance that direction. My hands gripped the steering wheel firmly, eyes forward. Traffic was light, most people already at their destinations, gathered around tables with family who actually wanted them there. Bob built 12 restaurants, I said aloud to the empty car. Mike Thompson had mentioned it in passing last year, talking about Academy classmates who'd done well. Worth millions, Mike said, and he wants my company, not my cash. Wants stories, not bank transfers. The landscape changed as I drove. Portland's middle-class neighborhoods gave way to Lake Oswego's manicured estates. Houses set back from the road behind gates and landscaped grounds. Old growth trees and water views. The kind of wealth that didn't announce itself, just existed. She's going to see these photos, I continued, talking through the forming plan. She's going to ask questions. Where was I? Who was I with? Why didn't I invite her? My jaw tightened as the strategy crystallized. Not revenge through confrontation. Not cutting her off completely. That would make me look bitter, wounded. No, something subtler. Show her a life she's not part of. Show her what money can buy when it's not being drained away in $800 increments. Let her wonder. Let her calculate what she's missing. Let her see her father living well, comfortable, connected, enjoying the fruits of his retirement, without needing her at all. The GPS announced my exit. I turned onto a tree-lined street where houses sat on acre lots, each one a statement of arrived success. Bob's place would be impressive, I realized, and that was perfect, because Beulah was going to see the photos. She monitored my sparse social media. I'd noticed her likes, her occasional comments designed to maintain the illusion of connection. She was going to see me at this dinner, and she was going to realize exactly what she'd traded away. The GPS guided me through streets where homes sat behind gates and landscaped walls. Each turn revealed another statement of wealth, modern glass structures, renovated craftsman estates, properties that commanded views of the Willamette River Valley. This wasn't firefighter retirement money. This was success. Bob's address brought me to wrought iron gates with a security camera and intercom. I pressed the button, heard a crackle. "Merle! Finally!" Bob's voice boomed through the speaker. The gates swung inward. I drove through, parking between a Tesla and a Mercedes SUV. The house rose before me, 3 stories of contemporary architecture, floor-to-ceiling windows, a terrace overlooking the valley. I sat in my car for a moment, hands on the wheel, and took a breath. Bob opened the door before I reached it. He extended his hand formally, then pulled me into an embrace. I stiffened, unused to genuine affection after 3 years of transactional hellos. But his grip was firm, real. I found myself relaxing into it. Look at you. You haven't aged a day since the academy. You're lying, but I appreciate it. This place, Bob. The restaurant's paid off. Come in. Sarah's been cooking since yesterday. She's excited to meet the man who saved my career. I just taught you the ladder drill. You taught me not to quit. That's worth more than any drill. Sarah Winston appeared in the foyer, elegant in a simple dress, her smile warm without calculation. She took my hand in both of hers. Bob talks about you constantly. The friend who wouldn't let him fail. Welcome. The house opened around us. Hardwood floors, exposed beams, that massive window wall framing the valley view. 15 people moved through the space. Conversations flowing, wine glasses catching light, children's laughter from somewhere upstairs. This was what Thanksgiving was supposed to feel like. Dinner happened around a long table set with crystal and china. I found myself seated between a woman who ran a tech startup and a man who owned commercial properties. Real conversations emerged, not small talk, not polite noise. 30 years as a fire captain, the businessman said. What was the worst call you ever took? I paused, felt the old weight settle. The ones where we arrived too late. Those stay with you. His wife leaned forward. I can't imagine carrying that. How do you process it? You remember why you did it. The saves matter more than the losses. Eventually, Bob's voice carried down the table. Merle saved more than anyone in our district. 3 commendations. Tell them about the apartment complex fire in '98. I told the story. Bob interjected with details, laughing about how I'd taught him everything. The table listened, actually listened, engaged with the narrative, asked follow-up questions. Nobody checked their phones, nobody glanced at watches. After the meal, Bob led me to the terrace. The Portland skyline glittered miles away, lights spreading across the valley like scattered stars. The November air bit cold but clear. You need a picture, Sarah appeared with her phone. Get together. The city lights are perfect tonight. Merle, humor her. She documents everything. I'm not exactly photogenic these days. Nonsense. You look like a fire captain should. Tough and reliable. Get over here. Bob's arm settled around my shoulders. I stood straight, chin up. Sarah moved around us, finding angles. Perfect, she called. Bob spoke quietly. His voice meant only for me. Thank you for coming today. I meant it when I said I owe you. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. That ladder drill day, I was ready to quit. You saw something in me I didn't see in myself. Now look. He gestured at the house, the view, the life he'd built. This exists because you wouldn't let me fail. Home by 9, the quiet wrapped around me differently than it had that morning. I sat in my recliner, pulled out my phone, found the best photo Sarah had taken. Bob and me grinning like academy recruits, the city lights blazing behind us. I opened Facebook, uploaded the image, typed carefully. Thanksgiving with old friends. Thanks, Bob, for reminding me what real family looks like. My finger hovered over post. I read the caption again, thought about Beulah seeing it, about the calculations that would follow. Then I pressed the button. I set the phone face down on the side table, made tea, let it steep while I stared at the dark window, seeing my reflection instead of the street beyond. 20 minutes passed before I picked up the phone again. The screen exploded with notifications. 17 text messages, 3 missed calls, all from Beulah. I scrolled through the messages slowly, watching the progression. Dad? You at someone's house? That place looks expensive. Where is that? Dad, who is Bob Winston? I looked him up. He owns restaurants. Why didn't you tell me you had wealthy friends? This is important. Call me. We need to talk about this. This changes things. I set the phone down, picked up my tea, took a sip. The liquid had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. The phone rang. Beulah. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Finally! Where were you today? I've been trying to reach you. I can see that. 17 messages. That house? Whose house is that? It looks like a mansion. Bob Winston's, an old friend from the fire academy. I looked him up online. He owns 12 restaurants. Dad? Why didn't you tell me you knew people like this? You never asked about my friends. You ask about money. Silence stretched between us. I heard Leroy's voice in the background. Let me talk to him. This is important, Dad. These are connections. I'm going to bed, Beulah. It's been a long day. I hung up, turned off the phone completely. In the darkness, I smiled. I turned the phone back on the next morning. It took 3 minutes for the notifications to load. 23 new messages, 7 missed calls, 4 voicemails, all from Beulah and Leroy. I made coffee first, took my time with breakfast, then scrolled through the accumulation. Beulah's texts had evolved overnight. The early ones maintained a veneer of concern. "Dad, are you okay? Just want to make sure you're safe." By 2 a.m. the mask had slipped. "We should discuss your social circle. These connections could benefit the whole family." At 10:15 my phone rang. "Leroy." I answered on the fourth ring. "Merle, hey, it's me. Saw your post. Interesting place your friend has." "Yes." "So, Bob Winston. Beulah says he's in the restaurant business. Pretty successful, looks like. He works hard. Built everything himself." "That's impressive. You two close, like, do you see him often, or why does that matter, Leroy?" Pause. I could hear him recalculating. "Just wondering. You know, family should know about your social circle, especially when it includes people of significance." "Significance? Financial significance. I mean, 12 restaurants. That's serious wealth. Estate planning territory." There it was, not even subtle. I walked to my window, looked out at my modest street, while Leroy continued talking about family interests and keeping everyone in the loop. "I need to go, Leroy." "Wait, when can we get together? Coffee? Lunch? We should catch up properly." "I'll let you know." I hung up before he could respond. The pattern continued. Friday, 4 calls, 11 texts. Saturday, 6 calls, 15 texts. Beulah's car in my driveway twice when I returned from errands. I didn't answer the door. Sunday morning brought a new approach. Beulah called at 9 a.m., her voice soft, calculated. "Dad, about Thanksgiving. I feel terrible about the misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding?" "We could have had you over. Leroy's mom had mentioned she might not have enough seating, but she managed. We just thought you'd feel uncomfortable with people you don't know. But I spent Thanksgiving with 15 people I barely knew. I felt wonderful." "That's different." "It is. They wanted me there. They valued my company, not my wallet." Sharp intake of breath. "That's not fair." "Fair? You needed $800 on Tuesday. By Wednesday, I wasn't close enough family for Thursday. Friday, I'm suddenly important again. What changed, Beulah?" "That's not... We care about you." "You care about Bob Winston's net worth? You Googled him before you called to see if I was okay." "I was concerned." "You were calculating, like you always calculate. Every visit, every call, every text. You're counting what you can extract." Silence. Then her voice turned cold. "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest. For the first time in 3 years, I'm being honest." I ended the call, sat in my recliner, staring at the family photos on the mantel. Same photos I'd studied days ago, seeing the pattern emerge. Now I saw something else, a timeline of my own enabling, my own willingness to be used because I was terrified of losing the only family I had left. But I'd already lost them. That loss happened years ago when my wife died and the buffer between us dissolved. I'd just been too desperate to see it. Monday morning, I sat at my computer, opened a search window, typed, "Estate Planning Attorney, Portland." Reviews appeared. I read carefully, making notes on a legal pad. Patricia Morrison, 15 years experience, specializing in complex estates and will modifications. Her testimonials mentioned protecting assets and ensuring proper inheritance distribution. I dialed her office at 10 a.m. "Morrison Estate Law, how can I help you?" "I need to schedule a consultation regarding estate planning and will modification." "Of course. May I ask what prompted this decision?" "I need to ensure my assets go where they're appreciated." Brief pause. The receptionist's voice warmed with understanding. "I see. We have an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. Would that work?" "Perfect. I'll bring all relevant financial documents." "Excellent. Ms. Morrison will look forward to meeting you, Mr. Flores, Merle Flores." After hanging up, I pulled out my filing cabinet. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds, insurance policies. Everything organized meticulously. The fire captain in me never left. I spread the documents across my dining table, reviewing the numbers. Retirement pension, $4,200 monthly. Social Security, $2,100 monthly. Investment accounts, $340,000. Home value, $425,000. Paid off. Life insurance, $500,000. Total estate value, approximately $1,265 million. More than enough to matter. more than enough to make them desperate. I gathered the documents into a folder, set it by the door for tomorrow's appointment. My phone buzzed. Another text from Beulah. Dad, please. Can we talk? Really talk? I typed back. I have an appointment tomorrow. We can talk after that. Her response came immediately. Appointment? For what? Are you okay? Is it medical? I smiled, turned off my phone, and went to make dinner. Let her wonder. Let her calculate. Let her spend the night imagining worst-case scenarios about my health, my estate, her access to both. Tomorrow, I'd start building walls she couldn't climb. Tomorrow, I'd ensure that the pattern of exploitation ended permanently. Tomorrow, Patricia Morrison would help me guarantee that my assets went somewhere they'd create value, not feed vampires. The text arrived Tuesday morning. Dad, can we please talk? In person, just coffee? I waited 3 hours before responding. Let her wonder. Let her calculate. Finally typed back, tomorrow, downtown, Bernie's Coffee, 10 a.m. Her reply came within seconds. Thank you. We'll be there. We. Of course Leroy would come. They operated as a unit when money was involved. Wednesday morning, I arrived at Bernie's 15 minutes early. Chose a corner table with clear sightlines to the entrance, the street, the restrooms. Old habit from fire scenes. Always know your exits. Always maintain awareness. The barista brought my black coffee. I thanked her by name, reading it from her tag. Thanks, Jennifer. Through the window, I watched them park at 10:07. Beulah checked her makeup in the visor mirror. Leroy adjusted his collar, preparing for performance. When they entered, Beulah's smile stretched too wide. Leroy's handshake gripped too firmly. Dad, you look good. Are you sleeping okay? Eating well? Same as always. They settled across from me. Leroy flagged Jennifer for their orders. Complicated drinks with multiple modifications. I waited, sipping my plain coffee. That was quite a Thanksgiving you had, Leroy started. Looked like a nice gathering. It was. We felt awful about the confusion with our plans. Beulah leaned forward, voice dripping manufactured concern. If we'd known you had alternatives. You didn't ask if I had alternatives. She blinked. Reset. Well, anyway, we're glad you weren't alone. This Bob Winston, you've known him a long time? There it was. 5 minutes from sitting down to the real agenda. Since 1985. Fire Academy. We were study partners, then worked in adjacent districts for years. And he went into restaurants? Leroy's tone suggested this was fascinating, not transparent fishing. That's an interesting pivot from firefighting. He always wanted to build something of his own. After retirement, he took the risk. Started with one small place in Beaverton, grew from there. Now he has 12 across Oregon. 12? Beulah's eyes widened. That's incredible. You must be proud of your friend. I am. He earned everything he has. Their drinks arrived. Beulah barely acknowledged Jennifer, too focused on extracting information. Do you see him often? Leroy stirred his latte slowly. Like, is this a regular thing, or was Thanksgiving special? We lost touch for a few years. He reached out when he heard I might be alone for the holiday. How did he hear that? Beulah's question came quick, sharp. Firefighter network. We stay connected. People check on each other. That's so sweet, her voice saccharine. You never mentioned you had such successful friends, Dad. You never asked about my friends. You ask about money. There's a difference. Silence dropped like a curtain. Beulah's fingers tightened around her cup. Leroy's jaw worked. Come on, Merle. Leroy attempted humor, his salesman's recovery. You can't blame us for being curious about the mansion photos. Curious about what exactly? The house? The success? Or what it might mean for you? Dad, that's not fair. Bob Winston values me because I taught him not to quit. Because we saved lives together. Because we're friends. I leaned forward slightly. Not because of what I can give him. Maybe you should think about what you value. Beulah's face flushed. Leroy's forced smile evaporated. I stood. Placed exact change on the table for my coffee plus tip. Not a penny more. I need to go. I have an appointment tomorrow that requires preparation. What appointment? Beulah's voice rose slightly. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I'm handling some personal business. What kind of business? Leroy stood too, blocking my path slightly. I met his eyes, held the gaze until he stepped aside. Personal, as I said. Enjoy your coffee. I walked out into November cold, crossed the street to my car, didn't look back immediately, started the engine, adjusted the mirror, gave myself a reason to glance toward the coffee shop. They sat close together, heads bent in intense conversation. Beulah's phone came out. Leroy gestured emphatically. I could imagine the exchange. Personal business? What does that mean? I don't know, but if he has friends with that kind of money... I pulled into traffic, headed home. Let them calculate. Let them Google Bob's net worth, his properties, his success. Let them wonder what other assets their father might have, what other wealthy friends might be in his circle. Because tomorrow, I'd start building walls they could never breach. Tomorrow, I'd ensure their greed met a locked door with no key. The appointment with Patricia Morrison wasn't just about protecting my money. It was about reclaiming agency. They'd spent 3 years treating me like a resource to be mined. Tomorrow, I'd become granite. Back home, I laid out the documents again. Bank statements, text message screenshots, social media posts. The evidence of systematic exploitation. 3 years of emergencies that were never emergencies, just sophisticated theft dressed as family need. I'd present this to Patricia not as complaints, but as facts. Not as emotions, but as data. Tomorrow would be the first concrete step in ensuring my legacy went somewhere it mattered. Somewhere it would create value, not enable vampires. Patricia Morrison's office occupied the 12th floor of a downtown Portland building with views of the Willamette River. I arrived 20 minutes early, manila folder squared on my lap, waiting room chair positioned where I could see both the elevator and the office entrance. Other clients came and went. A young couple, relieved expressions. An older woman, tissue crumpled in her hand. At 1:53, the receptionist called my name. Mr. Flores, Ms. Morrison will see you now. Patricia's office was professional warmth, law books lining shelves, framed Oregon bar certificate, family photos showing her with adult children, genuine smiles in those pictures, arms around each other, the kind of family that functioned. She stood, extended her hand. Firm grip, direct eye contact. Mr. Flores, thank you for coming in. Please sit. Your initial call mentioned estate planning and will modification. What's prompted this decision? I set the folder on her desk, but didn't open it yet. I need to ensure my assets go to people and organizations that value what I've built. I see. Has something specific happened? I've had a revelation about who values me versus who values my wallet. She nodded slowly, settling into her chair. That's more common than you might think. Tell me more. I opened the folder. 3 years of bank statements, highlighted entries, text message screenshots, social media posts, organized chronologically, cross-referenced, a fire captain's attention to evidence. Over 3 years, I've given my daughter $47,000. Each time she claimed an emergency. Each time, the money went somewhere else. Patricia pulled the documents closer, began reviewing. Her pen moved across the pages, occasionally pausing at specific entries. These text messages show her requests. Did you verify the stated purposes? At first, yes. She was my daughter. I trusted her. Then I noticed the pattern. Urgent call, money transferred, silence for months, until the next emergency. She looked up from a social media screenshot. And these posts show a vacation in March 2023? 2 weeks after claiming $8,000 in medical bills. I kept my voice level. I'm not a fool, Ms. Morrison. I'm just done being treated like one. Walk me through a few of these. Let's start with the largest single amount. August 2023. She said their roof was failing. Water damage imminent. Contractor needed deposit immediately. $8,600. I wired it that afternoon. And the actual use? Her husband posted photos of their new 75-inch television and sound system. Gaming setup. No mention of roof repairs. I pulled out another document. Their roof is fine. I drove by to verify. Patricia's pen paused. You verified this? I'm methodical. Comes from 3 decades of investigating fire scenes. You learn to check evidence, not accept stories. She continued reading, occasionally asking questions. When did contact typically occur? Did she ever repay amounts? What was our relationship like before these requests began? I answered each question directly. The pattern was clear. Contact correlated 100% with financial requests, never with relationship maintenance. Finally, Patricia set down her pen. Oregon law gives you full discretion over your estate. You can structure this several ways. You could disinherit her completely. No, the word came firm. She's still my daughter. I won't cut her off entirely. Then we limit her access. A testamentary trust. She receives benefits only after your death. Controlled distribution. No lump sum. Prevents spending it all immediately. And the majority of the estate? You mentioned charities, animal shelter, firefighter foundation. These are deductible and meaningful. We can structure 70% charitable, 30% to her. I considered this. 70% to organizations that saved lives, helped communities, made actual differences. 30% to Beulah, enough to show I didn't hate her, not enough to reward her behavior. Can she contest this? She can try. But with your mental competency, clear and documented rationale, it's unlikely to succeed, especially with this pattern of financial exploitation you've documented. What else should I consider? Living trust for current assets. Protects them while you're alive. You maintain control, but they're shielded from claims or manipulation. If she tries to pressure you for money, the trust makes it impossible. How long does this take? This will cost $3,500. That includes the new will, living trust, and all necessary Oregon state filings. Documents ready in 1 week. I pulled out my checkbook, wrote $3,500 without hesitation, tore the check cleanly along the perforation. When can I sign? I'll have everything prepared by December 5th. You'll need 2 witnesses who aren't beneficiaries. I'll bring my friend Bob and his wife. Perfect. She took the check, made a note. Once signed and notarized, this becomes your governing estate document. Your daughter won't know unless you tell her. Oh, I'll tell her. I stood, gathering my documents. When the time is right. We shook hands. Patricia walked me to the door. Mr. Flores, you're doing the right thing. Protecting what you built isn't selfish, it's wise. Outside, the afternoon sun cut through downtown buildings. I walked to my car feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Not vindictive, not angry, just clear. For 3 years I'd operated from fear. Fear of losing my only family. Fear of dying alone. Fear that saying no would push them away permanently. But they'd already pushed themselves away. They'd reduced our relationship to transactions, made me a resource instead of a father. Now I was taking control back, not through confrontation or cutting them off, but through legal protection and strategic distribution of my legacy. 70% would go where it mattered. 30% would be enough. December 5th couldn't come fast enough. The next 3 days passed quietly. I reviewed Patricia's preliminary documents, made notes for the December 5th signing, tried not to think about Beulah's escalating calls. 6 in 2 days, each voicemail more urgent than the last. December 2nd, late morning, I was reading when I heard a car in my driveway, through the window, Beulah's SUV. Before I could react, my front door burst open. "Grandpa!" Lucas and Emma ran in, their voices bright with genuine excitement. I barely had time to close the folder of legal documents before Emma launched herself into my arms. Behind them, Beulah and Leroy entered more slowly, watching. "We missed you. Mom said we could finally visit." I held Emma close, looked at Lucas, taller than I remembered. "I missed you both so much. Let me look at you. You've grown." "I'm in 1st grade now." Emma squirmed with pride. "I can read chapter books." "Chapter books? You'll have to read me one." Beulah stood near the kitchen doorway, not sitting. "They've been asking about you constantly." I met her eyes over Emma's head. "Then why has it been 4 months?" She didn't answer. Leroy moved to the window, hands in pockets, surveying my living room like an appraiser. For 10 minutes, I forgot everything else. Lucas showed me his school project, a diorama of the solar system carefully constructed. Emma insisted her stuffed rabbit needed my special hug. These moments were pure, uncomplicated. Their love was real. But Beulah and Leroy remained standing, not settling in, not relaxed, waiting. Leroy started casually, voice too smooth. "We've been looking at houses in West Lynn. Great schools, safe neighborhood. Found one we love." I continued helping Lucas adjust a planet that had come loose. "Sounds like you've made a decision." "Almost. Just need to finalize financing. You know how banks are. They want 20% down these days. On a $300,000 house, that's $60,000. My hand stilled on the diorama. That's a significant amount. But worth it for the children's future, don't you think? Beulah's voice had that familiar sweetness, the tone she used when asking for money. Lucas looked up at me, confused by the sudden tension. I kept my face calm for him. West Lynn has the top-rated elementary school in the county. Leroy warmed to his pitch. Lucas would have access to advanced programs. And Emma could walk to school, Beulah added. It's 3 blocks from the house we found. I stood, putting distance between myself and the children. This isn't an emergency. This is a lifestyle upgrade. The kids need space to grow. Our current house is too small. Your current house has 3 bedrooms. It's adequate. Dad, don't you want your grandchildren in a good neighborhood? With good schools? Beulah's voice rose slightly. Dad, we're family. We know you have savings. You've helped us before. I'm not a bank. Emma looked between us, her smile fading. Lucas clutched his diorama protectively. Leroy's casual facade cracked. You're being selfish, Merle. Your friend has millions, and you have enough saved. We know you do. Family helps family. Family? The word came out sharp. Where was my family on Thanksgiving? I sat alone in this house while you celebrated elsewhere. We explained that. You explained nothing. You excluded me. Then you saw photos of Bob's house and suddenly remembered I'm family. That's not fair. We're asking for help for your grandchildren. No, you're using my grandchildren to manipulate me. There's a difference. Emma started crying. The sound cut through me like broken glass. Beulah swept both children toward the door, her face tight with fury. Come on, kids. Grandpa needs time to think about what's important. I know exactly what's important, and I know what isn't. Leroy stepped close, voice dropping to a threat. Don't expect us to keep bringing the kids around if you're going to reject your own family? You mean don't expect you to use them as leverage? Understood. Dad, you're making a mistake. The only mistake was thinking you'd change. Emma twisted in Beulah's arms, reaching for me. Grandpa? Why are we leaving? I couldn't answer. Watched them rush to the car. Emma dropped her stuffed rabbit on the walkway. I picked it up, walked to the car before they pulled away, handed it through the window to her. Our eyes met. She didn't understand. How could she? They drove away. I stood in my driveway, watching until the SUV disappeared around the corner. Inside, the house felt emptier than before. Lucas's diorama sat on my coffee table, one planet still loose. I fixed it carefully, then set the whole thing by the door. Maybe I could return it, maybe not. The rabbit Emma dropped had left a small impression in the carpet where it landed. I stared at that mark for longer than made sense. $60,000, 6 times their largest previous request, and framed as being for the children they'd kept from me for 4 months until they needed something. I picked up my phone, called Patricia's office, left a message. Confirming December 5th appointment. No changes to the plan. Proceed as discussed. Then I sat in my recliner and let myself feel the cost of choosing dignity over manipulation. It was steep, but I'd pay it. That night, I barely slept. Emma's confused face haunted every time I closed my eyes. By dawn, I was sitting at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold in my cup. Emma's stuffed rabbit sat on the chair beside me. I'd taken it from the car before they left, kept it, maybe as evidence of what they'd done, maybe just because it felt like holding on to something. At 9, I called Bob. Didn't plan what to say, just needed to talk. Merle, everything all right? You sound rough. Had a situation yesterday. Need to get out of my head. Want to talk about it? Not yet. Need to do something useful first. Pause then. Portland Animal Haven. I volunteer there sometimes. Physical work, good people, animals don't care about your problems. His voice warmed. I'll call ahead. Ask for Vivian Clark, best person there. By 10:30, I was parking at Portland Animal Haven on SE Division Street. The building was modest, worn but clean. Dogs barked from somewhere inside. The smell hit as I entered. Animals, cleaning products, kibble. Reminded me of the firehouse somehow. Organized chaos with purpose. The coordinator greeted me warmly. Bob called. Welcome. Let me find Vivian. She led me through kennels to a quiet corner where a woman sat on the floor with an elderly Labrador. Silver hair pulled back, practical clothes, hands gentle on the dog's graying muzzle. Vivian, this is Merle, Bob's friend. The woman looked up, Warm eyes, laugh lines. You're Merle? Bob called about you. Welcome. She stood smoothly. Ever worked with dogs before? Not formally. Always wanted one, but fire department schedule made it difficult. You were a firefighter. She studied me with open interest, not calculation. Then you know about staying calm in chaos. Perfect temperament for this work. This is Duke. He's 14 and nervous around men. Let's see if we can change his mind. I crouched, slowly. Duke watched me, uncertain. Hey there, old man. I know how it feels when people give up on you. Vivian's glance sharpened. Yes, I imagine you do. We worked for 3 hours. The tasks were simple. Feeding, cleaning, walking dogs who pulled too hard or hardly pulled at all. Vivian moved with practiced efficiency, explaining each animal's story without sentiment. Duke's been here 3 months. Owner went into assisted living. Family didn't want an old dog. People treat them like they're disposable once they're no longer convenient. Not just dogs, unfortunately. She looked at me sideways. I've learned that older beings, people or animals, get discarded when they're seen as burdens instead of beings with value. Sounds like you've had some experience with that. Enough to recognize it in others. We developed an easy rhythm. She demonstrated proper leash handling for an anxious terrier. I followed her lead, movements careful. When the dog relaxed, she smiled, approval without words. During a break, we sat on a bench outside. She offered me half her sandwich. I accepted. We ate in companionable silence, watching a volunteer play with puppies in the yard. She didn't fill the quiet with chatter. After 15 minutes, she asked softly, You okay? I don't mean generally. I mean today. The directness caught me off guard. Family issues. She nodded once. Coffee after our shift. Sometimes talking helps. The coffee shop was 2 blocks away. Same one where I'd met Beulah, but this felt entirely different. No calculation, no performance. So, Vivian stirred her coffee. Family issues. Want to be more specific, or should we talk about the weather? I laughed despite myself. Direct. I appreciate that. Life's short, particularly at our age. My hands wrapped around the mug, easier to look at coffee than her face. My daughter and son-in-law see me as a funding source. Yesterday they brought my grandchildren, first time in months, to leverage me into giving them $60,000. Ouch! Did you give it to them? No, I refused, and they left angry, taking the kids. Good. I looked up. Good? You're not wrong to want respect. Money doesn't make you valuable. She leaned forward slightly. Your time, your care, your presence, that's what matters. If they can't see that, the problem isn't you. Something loosened in my chest. You're easy to talk to. Thanks for listening. I lost my husband 5 years ago. Spent 2 years after that being carefully managed by my kids, always checking if I was okay, really checking if I needed help managing money. She smiled without bitterness. Eventually told them to back off. It's lonely but honest. So you understand. I do. Here's what I learned. The right people don't need leverage to stay in your life. They just stay. Are you staying? Her smile widened. Same time next week? We'll see how Duke responds to you. We talked another hour, about nothing heavy. Books, Portland neighborhoods, the best coffee shops. Easy conversation between 2 people with no agenda beyond connection. When we parted ways, she squeezed my hand briefly. Thanks for today. Duke liked you. Driving home, I realized I was smiling. First genuine smile since Thanksgiving. My phone buzzed at a red light. Beulah. Dad, please call. We need to talk about yesterday. I deleted the message without responding. December 5th was 2 days away. The will signing would happen with or without their approval. Bob and Sarah would witness it. Patricia would notarize it. My legacy would be protected. And maybe, just maybe, there was space in my life for someone who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. December 5th arrived clear and cold. I drove to Patricia Morrison's office at noon, the manila folder with my signed engagement letter on the passenger seat. Bob and Sarah were meeting me there, witnesses to this moment, supporters of this decision. Patricia's conference room overlooked the Willamette River. Winter sun slanted through windows, catching the polished table where the documents waited. New will, living trust. Everything organized in neat stacks. Bob and Sarah arrived minutes after me. Sarah hugged me quickly. Ready for this? More than ready. Patricia entered with her notary, spread the documents before me. Mr. Flores, do you understand that this will supersede all previous testamentary documents? I understand completely. And you're making these decisions of your own free will without coercion? This is the first truly free decision I've made regarding my estate in years. She walked me through each section: the charitable designations, Portland Animal Haven, Oregon Firefighters Burn Institute, 70% of everything, the testamentary trust for Beulah, 30%, controlled distribution, no lump sum, the living trust protecting current assets from manipulation or pressure. I signed each page deliberately, my initials where required. The pen felt good in my hand, solid, purposeful. Each signature was an act of reclamation. The notary stamped each document. The sound satisfied something deep in me. Final, binding, protected. Patricia shook my hand. Your estate is now protected according to your wishes. Bob clasped my shoulder. Proud of you, brother. I'm learning from the best. We stopped for coffee afterward, the three of us. Bob raised his cup. To protecting what matters. I touched my cup to his, then Sarah's. Simple gesture. Profound meaning. How do you feel? Sarah asked gently. I considered. Like I just put out a fire that's been burning for 3 years. That evening I called Beulah. Kept my voice steady, neutral. I need to speak with you and Leroy tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock, my house. It's important. What's this about, Dad? Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I've made some decisions about my estate that you need to know about. Your estate? Dad, what are you talking about? Tomorrow, face to face. It's not a conversation for the phone. She tried pressing. I deflected. Eventually, she agreed. December 6th morning, I arranged the living room deliberately. 2 chairs facing mine, distance established. 2 manila folders on the coffee table, copies of the new estate documents. Coffee made but not offered. They arrived at 10 sharp. Unusual punctuality, suggesting anxiety. Dad. Beulah's smile was uncertain. Leroy nodded, hands in pockets, eyes scanning my living room like he was appraising it. Sit, please. I gestured to the chairs. I've made changes to my will. You need to understand what they mean. I slid the folders across the coffee table. Measured movement, controlled. Open them. Read page 3, section 2. Beulah opened hers first. I watched comprehension dawn. Her hand trembled slightly, turning pages. I've revised my will. The majority of my assets, 70%, will go to charitable organizations upon my death. What? She looked up, eyes wide. Dad, you can't be serious. The remaining 30% is designated for you, Beulah, but you'll receive it only after my death, through a controlled trust. No advances, no loans, no early access. Leroy's face darkened. Merle, this is ridiculous. We're your family. Exactly. You're my family. Yet for 3 years you've treated me like a bank. $47,000 in emergencies that were actually lifestyle upgrades. Dad, this isn't fair. That money should stay in the family. Fair? The word came out sharp. You excluded me from Thanksgiving dinner. Then you saw Bob's house and suddenly I was family again. That's not family. That's calculation. We explained that. You explained nothing. You lied. Bob reminded me what real relationships look like. They're not built on transactions. Leroy leaned forward. Your rich friend's been filling your head with ideas. Bob values me for who I am. Can you say the same? Silence. Heavy. Damning. Leroy stood abruptly. Fine. Don't expect to see your grandchildren again. Ever. Something settled in me. Final. Clear. I'll see them when they're old enough to understand manipulation and choose for themselves. Until then, they're safer not learning your values. Beulah's voice rose. Dad, you're making a terrible mistake. No, the mistake was enabling your behavior for 3 years. I'm correcting it now. I stood, facing them both. Live your lives. Build your marriage on something other than my money. Or don't. That's your choice. You'll regret this. Leroy's voice dropped to a threat. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. They left the folders on the coffee table. Too angry to take them. The door slammed behind them. I didn't move immediately. Listened to their car start, drive away. Watched through the window as the street returned to quiet. Picked up the folders they'd abandoned. filed them carefully in my desk drawer. Done. Not triumph, not victory, just peace. December 8th, I arrived at Portland Animal Haven carrying 2 coffees. Learned Vivian's order. Oat milk latte, no sugar. She was already there, working with Duke. The old lab's tail wagged when he saw me now. You brought coffee. She accepted the cup. Genuine smile. I could get used to this. Consider it payment for putting up with a grumpy retired firefighter. You're not grumpy. Thoughtful, maybe. Quiet, but not grumpy. Give it time. I intend to. We worked side by side for 3 hours. I'd learned which tasks suited me. Lifting feed bags, repairing kennel latches, the physical work my body remembered from firefighting years. Vivian managed the emotional labor, coaxing anxious dogs toward trust. During a break, sitting on the bench outside, she asked carefully, "How did your serious family conversation go?" I showed them the new will, told them most of my estate goes to charity. They weren't pleased. I imagine not. How do you feel about it? Lighter, like I've been carrying weight I didn't realize was there. Good weight to shed. The best part? I don't feel guilty. For the first time, I don't feel guilty for protecting myself. She nodded slowly, understanding in her eyes. Walking to our cars after our shift, I stopped. Turned to face her fully, hands in pockets. Nervous habit I thought I'd outgrown. Vivian, I'd like to see you outside the shelter, properly. Dinner, conversation, seeing where this leads, if you're interested. She studied my face, seeing past the words to the vulnerability beneath. I was wondering when you'd ask. I'm out of practice. Might be rusty at this. That makes 2 of us. How about Friday? There's an Italian place on Hawthorne I've been wanting to try. Italian on Hawthorne. Friday at 7? It's a date. December 10th, I retrieved my mail. Among bills and advertisements, a handwritten envelope. Beulah's familiar script. I made coffee before opening it. Needed fortification. The letter was different. No manipulation, no requests. Just raw honesty that made my throat tight. Dad, I've had time to think about everything you said. You were right. I let Leroy convince me you owed us. That family meant automatic access to your money. I forgot you were my father, not my funding source. I'm sorry. No conditions. Just sorry. If you're willing, I'd like to try rebuilding our relationship without money between us. I understand if you're not ready. I'll wait. Love, Beulah. I read it twice, then picked up my phone. I got your letter? Her voice shook. Dad, I didn't know if you'd call. I almost didn't, but I read it twice. You took responsibility. That's new. I've had time to think about what you said, about how I've treated you. You were right. I'm willing to try rebuilding, but on new terms. Respect, not obligation. Relationship, not transaction. Yes, whatever it takes. I want my father back, not my bank, my father. Then let's start there. Small steps. Coffee next week? I'd like that. Her voice caught. Thank you for giving me another chance. After we hung up, I sat with the letter for a long moment. Hope and caution balanced carefully. She'd have to prove the change was real, but I was willing to let her try. That evening, Bob called. Christmas dinner at our place, December 25th. Bring Vivian. Sarah wants to meet her. You sure? Merle, you're family. The kind that matters. And if Vivian makes you smile like you did at Thanksgiving, she's family too. Friday came. Dinner with Vivian at the Italian place. Checked tablecloths, good wine, easy conversation. We talked about books, Portland neighborhoods, our adult children's complicated lives, laughed at shared observations about aging, about starting over at 60-something. She told me about her late husband. I told her about my wife. We spoke of them with love, without dwelling. They'd want us to move forward. Walking her to her car, I asked, "Would you come to Christmas dinner at Bob's house?" Meeting the friends already, but her eyes were warm. They're good people. I'd like you to know them. Then yes, I'd like that. The shelter approved my application to adopt Duke. December 15th, I brought him home. 13-year-old dog nobody else wanted. He settled into my house like he'd always belonged there. December 8th evening, that night after asking Vivian to dinner, we'd sat on my back porch. She'd come over after the shelter for coffee. Duke lay between us, content. Winter sunset painted the sky orange, then purple, over Portland's skyline. City lights began appearing as daylight faded. I spent weeks thinking I was getting revenge, I said quietly. What was it then? Remembering my worth. I thought, if I gave enough, did enough, I'd earn their love. But it doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't. Some people will only ever value what you can give them: money, things, access. But the right people? They pay with something better: attention, presence, time. She squeezed my hand. And which kind am I? I looked at her, silver hair catching the last light, warm eyes meeting mine without calculation or agenda. The right kind. Definitely the right kind. Duke's head rested on my foot. Vivian's shoulder touched mine. The December cold bit gently, but I felt warm. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when Leroy's call excluded me from Thanksgiving, but it was better than anything I could have planned. Not revenge, not triumph, just peace. And the knowledge that I'd finally learned the difference between being used and being valued. The right people pay with attention, and I'd found my people at last. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.